If you want to do case study research, then you need to know the different types so you can design the best study possible. And you're going to learn how right now. Hi, everybody. I'm Leigh Hall from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia and make your best impact. Today, we're going to be talking about the different types of case studies. So if you're interested in case study research, want to learn more about it, there are different designs that you can use. A case study is not a case study all across the board. So what are the different types? Let's dive in and take a look. All right, so first up is the explanatory case study, and this is where we're really working to explain a specific phenomenon or an event, and it's really getting at the complexities that interventions often cannot get at, right? Because an intervention can do, help us really understand why something does and doesn't work, and maybe even the limitations of why something doesn't work, but it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty depth explanatory deep understandings because interventions don't look at individuals up close, spend a lot of time following them to see how the intervention actually affects their lives. So an explanatory often asks a how or why question, and it really digs into what is going on in one or multiple people's lives, right? So here is an example of a question. How did a community keep big box stores out of its town, all right? So that's the event, keeping big box stores out of your town. The case for that is the community, okay, however you're going to define community, you as the researcher get to define that, and then you're going to be generating data to look at what that community did to prevent a big box store from coming into their town. All right, next up, the descriptive. This is where we're describing something. It's exactly what it sounds like, okay? You're describing a community, you might be describing a context, you might be describing what's going on with an intervention that's taking place. So here's an example question. How do students of varying English speaking abilities respond to a specific type of instruction, okay? So obviously you could do this on a big scale, right? You could do this as an intervention, you could do this as a quasi-experimental study, and you could have a quasi-experimental study going on that's looking at this. But if you want to make it a case study, okay, you can then identify 1, 2, I would say up to 5 people, right, that are, students of varying English speaking abilities, and you decide what that looks like, and you're going to follow them very closely. You're going to, be observing them multiple times a week. You're going to and describing what they do in response to the instruction that they're receiving. You're going to be interviewing them. You're going to be collecting artifacts that they produce, right? So some data you might get on a large set, right, of people. So for example, if there was an assessment associated with this, you might get that on a large group of people, but you're going to get more fine-grained details, everyday experiences, diving into the students' interpretations and understandings of what they're experiencing. You're going to do that with a very, very, very finite group of people. That's going to be your descriptive case study. All right, now exploratory. Exploratory often happens before an intervention. It doesn't have to, but it can lead to an intervention. Because what you're doing is you're exploring and you're describing a problem, an issue of some sort. And usually there's very limited research that's been done on this topic. So before you can figure out maybe what to do an intervention on, you kind of go in to sort of get a bigger picture, bigger in-depth understanding of that issue, all right? It can end up developing theory. It can expand our theoretical understandings of why things are not happening. It can help us better understand causal relationships. And like I said, it's usually preliminary to a larger study, and it really, once you sort of explore that issue, helps you really refine the research questions that you're going to be asking. Now, with any of this, you can do a multi-case study, okay? And a multi-case study is not the design in and of itself. I'm just putting this in here as a little bonus because, for example, you can do a descriptive, you can do an exploratory, but within that, you have to decide, do I just want one person or one community or one context, or do I want multiple, right? So back with the question about students that were learning, had varying English abilities, right? You could have a multi-case study there where you might have somebody that is, a native English speaker, and then maybe you have other people that are not native English speakers that have varying abilities to speak English, okay? And you would decide what that is and what's important to your study, all right? So that's one thing, right? You can vary your cases, and varying your cases, what they look like, increases diversity in your study and helps you understand, you know, what that case looks like with different kinds of people with different kinds of backgrounds, different kinds of experiences. Now, you can also look at similar cases. Okay, so let's say back with the, you know, the students that are learning that speak multiple, vary in their English speaking abilities. Let's say you want to have 5, you know, people that are you're going to do a case study on within that, and they're brand new to the country. They don't speak English at all. Okay, so they're kind of all pretty similar in their abilities, and that's fine too. You can look at similar cases to see how the, you know, the experience that you're studying affects them. So in that example, how that instruction that they were receiving did or did not help them, given that they all had came in with similar abilities to speak and understand English. All right, that's going to help you identify patterns. You've got a commonality in place, okay, and it's also going to help you strengthen the theoretical aspects that you're going to be able to contribute to with your findings. All right. Now, varying cases, and when I've done multi-case studies, I always have varying cases. So I usually have cases with adolescents that vary in terms of their reading abilities. I'll have somebody that's a really strong reader. I'll have somebody that's considered to be a very poor reader, and then I'll have people in sort of in between that, right? And what varied cases like that can do is they can look for the different kinds of effects an intervention has, okay? So if you set up an intervention study, you can within that study do a multi-case study that's looking up close at a few carefully selected individuals to understand what the effects are that that intervention has on people of different, you know, in my case, different reading abilities, but it could be, you know, you define that for yourself. All right, so that is case study research. That gives you an overview of the different kinds of case studies that you can do. And if you like this, want to learn more, let's head on over to the next video.